What we're talking about right now is the responsibility, the job of these two guys, our linebackers in the 6-2. Now, the front six has a very big responsibility in the 6-2. They've got to get good penetration and hopefully stop everything up there. But the main job of the front six is to get a push. It then falls on the shoulder of these two guys to make every stop. Once they break that initial wall, there's basically three guys left to make the tackle. And these are the next two in the line of defense. So, they have to be good at reading and reacting, coming up to stop a play. They also have to be good in pass coverage because right now we don't have that extra linebacker back to help out in pass coverage. So this guy has got to cover in the middle out, and this guy's got to cover from the middle out. And we don't have as much line play that can drop back and help in pass coverage as well. So these two guys got a big job in the 6-2. In talking about linebacker play, one of the first things that the linebackers have to be thinking about on every play is where is their responsibility lie? And what we call this is the first thing they have is gap responsibilities. Now that doesn't mean that on every play they have to bust up in their gaps, but they have to be concerned about what's coming through that gap first, then they have to help out on the play second. So let me show you where the gap responsibilities of each of these linebackers are. We're going to start in the middle. In the middle, we have our Mike linebacker. He's got big responsibility because he's got this whole middle area. Up in here, we call this the A gap. The A gap is on both sides of the center. It's where a lot of times they'll try to run the running backs through. So this guy has to come up first of all and break down in his gap to see if they're going to run through. Now obviously then if he picks up that it's a passing play, then he's going to have to backpedal and he's going to have to cover this middle area as a cover man. On the outside here, the strong side backer has what we call the C gap. The C gap is on the outside of the tackle and the tight end. So what he has to do is first make a decision to come up, make sure nobody's coming through his gap, then he reacts. And the last gap on this side is the will linebacker, and he's also got C gap responsibilities and anything coming off the tackle. So as a linebacker, your first thing is you have to know, is anybody coming through my gap? Secondly, then you react to what's going on in the play. When talking about linebacker play, it all starts with your positioning on the field and having a good stance. The first thing we want to talk about is the good stance. Most linebackers, in fact all linebackers, will line up in what's called a two-point stance. In a two-point stance, the first thing you want to do is you want to have good balance. You want to have your feet shoulder width apart. You want to have your butt down and your shoulders back. You don't want to be leaning too much forward and you don't want to be leaning too far back. You want to have a good base. Two-point stance, you're usually going to rest your hands on your thighs, ready to explode up in the play. That's called a two-point stance. So that's the first part of it. Now, the positioning of the linebackers are usually about 3 to 5 yards behind the defensive line. So if this is the offense, the defensive line is going to be lined up on me. Or the defensive line is going to be on me. So we want our backers about 3 to 5 yards behind. Not too far back where it's going to take them a long time to get in the play. We also don't want them too close so that they get blocked off a play and they can run some kind of a pass route behind the linebackers. So about 3 to 5 yards is the positioning. So first of all, having a good stance, being balanced. Secondly, lining up 3 to 5 yards is where you want your linebackers when you're playing a good defense. And what we want to talk about now is once that our linebackers have kind of read the play, they've stepped up in their gaps, and they've read what's happening, and now they're reacting to the play. One important thing that you want to do is when you're pursuing a tackle, when you're pursuing a play, you don't just want to lock your eyes on the man that you're going for. You want to try to have your head on a swivel to see if anybody's coming out to make a block on you. So once these guys have reacted, if I'm running the ball to this side and they've reacted to what's going on, they want to make sure and keep their head on a swivel and not just on me, because what's going to happen is this guy right here on the offensive line, if he's looking out here to make a tackle, one of these guys are, this guy's going to come up from nowhere and they're not going to see him coming and they're going to make a crackback block on the side of him and could possibly injure him and knock him out of the play. So one thing he's got to make sure and do is pursue the play, but at the same time, he's got to be looking, if there's somebody come out to make a block, he's going to have to take on that block and shed that block and then make the tackle. So when you're pursuing the play, you want to make sure that you've got your head on a swivel and that you're looking to make sure nobody's coming up from the backside to put a big block on you when you're trying to make the tackle. We're talking about linebacker play, and the best linebackers that you can have are guys that are athletic and guys that can read the plays. What we call the linebackers are, we say their job is to read and react. First thing he has is gap responsibility. So once the quarterback snaps the ball, first thing he has to do is he wants to take kind of a step up in his gap and read what's coming through the gap. What he recognizes here when he steps up in this gap is he notices that our fullback has taken the handoff. So what he needs to do is, this fullback's either going to come through his gap or going to cut off side of his gap. So he needs to come up and attack the gap. Now the tight end's going to be coming out to make a block right here. So what he has to do is read and keep his eyes locked on the running back. If the running back cuts to the inside, then he's going to shed the block to the outside, staying alive, and make the tackle here. If the running back comes to the outside, he's got to be able to keep a good base, and he's got to move in a shuffle and keep those guys off and be able to shed that block and get out here to make the tackle. So the biggest thing about the linebackers, the most important thing is, can they read the play, what's happening, and then being able to react to it. If it's a pass play, he's got to be able to read it, and then he's got to be able to react and drop back into pass coverage. What we want to talk about right now is when a linebacker is able to get through a gap and he doesn't pick up a block and he's able to get good pursuit into the backfield, he wants to make sure and break down before he hits a running back. This can also happen if he comes outside and doesn't get a block and the running back's coming to the outside. He cannot run in so fast that he doesn't break down and he misses the tackle. You see this happen a lot because he's going strong one way, the running back goes strong another way, and they're not able to meet in the middle. So this is what it would look like if he's coming in and we do it the wrong way. He's going to come screaming in through there. This guy's going to make a move to the outside. He's not going to have the balance enough to get the good tackle, so he's just going to have to throw an arm out there and hopefully try to make the stop. But if he does it the proper way, and we send this guy on a blitz, and we send him through, and he goes through the gap to make a stop, he wants to break down once he gets there, break down, that way he can make a good hit on the running back. Don't over pursue the play, get there, break down so you can make a good tackle. You can do it the same way if he's coming out here. You don't want him to run so hard this way that he can't make the tackle when he's running at an angle either. One thing that's very important for not only linebackers but for everybody, when you're making an angle tackle, you have to take the proper route of angle pursuit in order to make the tackle. If you don't take the proper angle trying to make the tackle, your running back is going to be able to get outside of you and go for a long gain. So what we're talking about proper angle pursuit is, once this running back starts to come through the hole, our linebacker has to take a proper angle and meet him at the point of attack. If our linebacker, go ahead back, if our linebacker were to run straight down instead of taking an angle and he were to run straight at this running back coming through, you can see what's going to happen. This guy's just going to continue to get wide and he's going to go out around the tackle. So the best way to make a good tackle as a linebacker on a running back is to make angle pursuit. That means we're going to cut off the angle, we're going to meet the running back, and then obviously at the end you're going to make a good tackle. This is what it looks like in live action. Set. Hut. Good. Good tackle. You see that he stayed low. Once he got there, he made a good contact tackle, and that's the way you run angle pursuit. When talking about good linebacker play, the first thing we obviously have to do is he has to read the play. Once he reads the play, he's then reacting to the play. But the most important thing is he's got to be able to take on blockers. If you don't have a guy that's athletic enough to come up and shed blockers and make tackles, he's not going to be very successful as a linebacker. So you got to have the most athletic, the strongest, and the quickest guys playing in your linebacker position. So what it's going to look like and what it's going to start with again is having a good base, a good foundation under you. Being able to have good footwork so that he can stay with the play as it's going this way, he can stay with it, or as the play is going to the outside. He's going to have to be able to have good balance and to be able to initiate, fight off blockers, and then attack up on the tackle. So what it's going to look like if we walk through it is he's going to come up. This guy's going to be coming out to block. He's going to have to keep his feet moving. He's going to have to shed the block and then come up, and he's going to have to make a low tackle and drive through the play. This is what it's going to look like at full speed with our running back running the ball and our linebacker reading the play. Set. Hut. He makes a good shed. He made a good low block or good low hit. He stood the running back up. That's textbook way to play at the linebacker spot. What we want to talk about right now is when a linebacker is able to get through a gap and he doesn't pick up a block and he's able to get good pursuit into the backfield, he wants to make sure and break down before he hits a running back. This can also happen if he comes outside and doesn't get a block and the running back's coming to the outside. He cannot run in so fast that he doesn't break down and he misses the tackle. You see this happen a lot because he's going strong one way, the running back goes strong another way, and they're not able to meet in the middle. So this is what it would look like if he's coming in and we do it the wrong way. He's going to come screaming in through there. This guy's going to make a move to the outside. He's not going to have the balance enough to get the good tackle, so he's just going to have to throw an arm out there and hopefully try to make the stop. But if he does it the proper way, and we send this guy on a blitz, and we send him through, and he goes through the gap to make a stop, he wants to break down once he gets there, break down, that way he can make a good hit on the running back. Don't over pursue the play, get there, break down so you can make a good tackle. You can do it the same way if he's coming out here. You don't want him to run so hard this way that he can't make the tackle when he's running at an angle either. What we want to talk about now is a lot of times the linebackers can make the right reads, they can step up in the proper gaps, they can do all the right things, they can shed the blocks, but then they've got to make sure that they finish off the tackles properly. If not, all that other hard work was for naught. So what we want to talk about now is how to come up in that gap, break down, stay low, and make a good hit. So what we're going to have right now is he's going to attack his gap. He's going to meet the blocker head on. First thing he's got to do is he's got to get low. He's got to shed that block. Now, once he sheds the block, the next thing he's got to do is take on this guy. First of all, he wants his head to the outside, and he wants to hit the running back low. He doesn't want to try to come up and make a high hit on a running back because the running backs are going to bounce off of you. So, come in and hit low, Tanner. Now, once he's hit low, he wants to wrap up, and the next thing he wants to do is keep his feet moving, and he wants to drive through the tackle. Because if the running back is able to keep his feet moving and get lower leverage, he's going to take our linebacker and push him for a positive gain. And we want to hit him and push him for a negative gain. So this is what it's going to look like when it's live, when we have a proper tackling technique. Set. Hut. So you can see that he came in and he hit low and he made a good stop in the backfield and he finished off the tackle, giving no hope to our running back. What we want to talk about now is whenever we have our linebackers come up to get involved in a play, we've talked about many things such as, first of all, you're going to come up, you're going to read the gap to see what's happening, you're going to read the play, then you're going to react to the play. But there's one thing we want to talk about, and that is to always come with inside pursuit. What we mean by that is we never want our linebackers to take what I call a banana route and come outside to try to get to a running back in the backfield. For one, that's a simple block for this tight end because all he has to do is he has to hit this guy and just push him out, and that makes a huge gap through where the running back can run. So what we always want to do with our linebackers is we want to run them inside out. Now, you're also usually going to have a defensive end that's lined up right here. So what we want the play to happen is We want him to take inside pursuit and to force this running back to the outside, where either he's going to get the hit or me as a defensive end is going to keep this play in, and we're going to make the stop in the backfield. So you always want to remember to have your linebackers run inside out to the play, not to come from the outside into the play. And that's going to make it a lot easier for your linebackers to make tackles. What we want to talk about right now with our linebackers is some things not to do on the football field to cost your team some extra yardage. A lot of times linebackers are some very aggressive guys. They want to make big hits. But we got to make sure that we don't penalize our team when we make those big hits. The first thing I want to talk about is when a linebacker drops back into coverage, if this tight end releases, the linebackers have to be very careful that they don't make contact with the tight end after 5 yards. It's one of the biggest mistakes that linebackers always make because they want to come up and they want to check this guy. But most of the time, when a linebacker drops back in coverage, they're going to be beyond that 5-yard marker. So when the tight end releases and he sees that he's at 5 yards, he cannot come up and make contact with this guy any longer. He just has to try to play some kind of pass coverage on him. The second thing we want to talk about, or the last two things we want to talk about, are on the tackle. If our linebacker is up here pursuing the running back and he sheds his block and he comes in to make a tackle, two things he cannot do. One is, if our running back's coming out, come on out, running back. Okay, if he goes to make the tackle, one thing he cannot do is bring his hands up into the face mask when he makes a tackle. That's either going to be a 5 yard if he barely touches it, or if he uses the face mask to bring this guy down, he could cause injury. That's going to be a 15-yard penalty. The other penalty that he cannot do is if this guy's gotten to the outside, he cannot reach up and grab him by the top of his shoulder pads and jerk him down. That's called a horse collar, and they will not allow that if it's aggressive. Now, if you come up and you tackle him by his shoulder pads and bring him down, that's okay. But if you grab him inside and pull back, there's a chance that he could get choked or injured, and that could be a major penalty. So those are just a few things that you do not want to do if you're a linebacker. One of the fun things you can do with linebackers is something called to stunt or to blitz. And what that means is we're going to take our linebackers and we're going to try to just put them on an all-out run through the line to try to get to either stop the play in the backfield with the running back or to try to get to a quarterback. Now you got to make up your decision. When you call a blitz, you're selling this guy out. He no longer has his gap responsibilities. He no longer has to read the play and react to play. He has one job. That job is to go as hard as he possibly can through this gap and to try to get to that quarterback and make a stop in the backfield. Now, the first thing that we want to talk about is the stunt. And what a stunt means is basically it's just showing when you have a defensive lineman down in a stance, you're going to bring your linebackers up and show that they're going to blitz. So they're just going to come up real quick. Sometimes you can stunt and you can drop them back. Sometimes you can stun them and then blitz them. So the first thing we're going to show is what it looks like just to stunt up into the holes. So first of all, we're going to stunt. Go. They're just going to stunt up, they're going to be ready, and then they can return back. The next thing is called a stunt into a blitz. So just stunt up, and then I'm going to say hut, and then you blitz. Down, set, hut. Good. That's a stunt to a blitz. And the last thing we have is what we call the all-out blitz. That means that these guys, these linebackers, just make up their decision to go all out through. Set, hut. And they are just going as hard as they can to get into the backfield. Most of the times you're not going to blitz both of your linebackers. You're either going to blitz up the middle, or you're going to blitz from the right, or you're going to blitz from the left, because you don't want to waste all those guys if they don't get to the quarterback. But that's what you call a stunt and a blitz. One thing that a quarterback has got to be concerned with sometimes is a dual threat quarterback. And what we mean by a dual threat quarterback is a quarterback that can throw really well, and he's also a threat to run. A perfect example of that would be Tim Tebow at Florida. He's good at sprinting out of the backfield. He's good at throwing. You never know what he's going to do. So what a lot of teams will do is they'll put their middle linebacker as a spy. So what we're going to do as a spy is this middle linebacker is going to keep his eye on everything that our quarterback does. If the quarterback drops straight back like he's going to pass, then he's just going to keep an eye on him and he's going to drop back into pass coverage. If this quarterback bootlegs or runs out, then our linebacker is going to stay with him. If he takes a couple of steps back and then decides just to run, then the linebacker is going to come up and make that hit on him. Whatever the quarterback does, it's the job of the middle linebacker or our spy to come up and to make that stop. So that's kind of what we're talking about with when you've got a dual threat quarterback. Sometimes you're going to have to assign one person to mirror that person and to come up and make a stop on them whenever they try to make a big play. One thing we want to talk about when linebackers come up to make hits, not always will that linebacker have to make the tackle and finish the tackle. One of the best things you can do is to wrap up a guy and hold him for your other teammates to come. And that's also a good advantage for one reason. One reason is we can get one linebacker involved, and when the second guy comes in, we can try to strip the ball and force turnovers. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you the first guy is going to make the tackle, and when the second guy comes in to help out on the tackle, we call it tackling the ball. Because what he's going to do is he's going to go in not only to finish off the tackle, but he's going to try to come in and hit the ball and jar it loose so that we cause a fumble. So we're going to walk through it. Our running back's coming out. Our outside linebacker's going to make the first hit, but our running back's got a good drive going. So now we want our second back to come in, finish off the play. Here, let's spin this around so we can see better. All right. Go ahead and make the first tackle on him to the outside. Now he's going to hold him up. Now you see that the ball is right here. So we want this guy to come in to make the tackle. We want him to come in with his arms, trying to hammer the ball loose or knock the ball loose. And the main thing is to go ahead and get him tackled down to the ground. And that's what we call tackling the ball or coming to help out your fellow teammates in the middle of a tackle.